Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, a window into the soul of the North Fork of Long Island. We'll delve into the pulse of our community, its pressing issues, promising opportunities, and the rich stories that weave our shared history. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 107, we sit down with Sam Strickland Jr., a young and dedicated Greenport native who has already made a big impact on his community. We talk about his journey growing up in Greenport, his love for sports, and his commitment to public service through the Greenport Fire Department. Sam shares what inspired him to run for the Greenport School Board and his visions for the district's future. We also dive into his work as a security guard for the Mattituck and Cutchogue School District, his experiences as a bodyguard at major events like the Grammys, and his passion for DJing. Plus, we discuss the key issues facing the North Fork and his hopes for the future. Join us for a conversation with one of Greenport's rising leaders. So I hope you enjoy episode 107 with Sam Strickland Jr. This episode was recorded October 22nd, 2024. Thank you so much for coming on to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me today.
Definitely. So to start off in the beginning, could you just give us a little introduction about yourself, where you were born and raised?
Absolutely. So my name is Sam Strickland. I'm 26 years old. Born and raised here in Greenport. Lifetime local.
Nice. And then in terms of your parents, did they grow up here and what did they do for a living?
So my dad is Samuel Strickland Sr. He's born and raised in Mattituck. He was he did 30 years at Mattituck Cutchogue School District. He retired about 3 years ago. Now that he's retired, he now works for the village, the Greenport Fire Department. He does the custodian there, the houseman there. And my mom, her name is Marlene Strickland. She grew up in Riverhead, and she currently works at Greenport AHRC, which is like a group home for mentally retarded adults.
Okay. But in terms of your dad grew up in Mattituck as a child through there. Did he say what it was like for him growing up in the community?
I think he liked growing up in Mattituck
Okay.
and working there, He pretty much graduated and went right into working there. Mm-hmm. So he retired as the head custodian there. And I think overall he loved the community. Mm-hmm. And he always wanted to raise kids out on the East End.
Yeah. And so now you grew up in Greenport. How would you describe the community in Greenport, and what activities would you do as a child?
I loved it here in Greenport, and I always told myself that I would never move from Greenport. Mm-hmm. So growing up, it was a really tight-knit community, and you knew everybody that lived anywhere within the mile radius of you. And it was a great time growing up here. I played basketball growing up, played for junior high, and then my 8th grade year I got moved up and went on to play varsity basketball for them.
And so you mentioned some of the sports, but how was the overall school experience? That was pretty much all in the one building, right?
Yeah, the school experience was amazing. I mean, I thrived in high school. I loved every minute of growing up there. It takes a village to raise these kids, and I'm a true believer in that, and I thrived. I mean, it was such an amazing place. Greenport was special because it's kindergarten through 12th grade in one building. Mm-hmm.
And did you gravitate towards any specific classes or enjoyed any specific subject matter?
I would definitely say gym and science were, my two favorite classes, and study hall, of course. But yeah, I mean, I loved everything about Greenport. It was just, like I said, a tight-knit community, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. And did you know what you wanted to do coming out of high school?
Coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to do something that was, I was going to be helpful in whatever I did. So whether it was becoming a police officer, a firefighter, EMT, whatever it took, I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. coming out of high school, I did go to Suffolk for my associates in criminal justice. So that was about it.
Mm. And, like some people coming out of high school, they might want to move somewhere else or go far. Did you feel that at all at the time, or you were like interested in staying pretty close?
I was always interested in staying pretty close. I always told myself I didn't want to put myself in a financial hole.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew what I knew now, I definitely would have went towards a trade school.
Mm.
I feel like when I was growing up, trade schools wasn't really the thing. It was either you were coming out of high school working or you were going to college.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know too much about trade schools and trades.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was during your time at Suffolk, but when did you decide to join the fire department in Greenport?
Funny you ask. So I got a long story for this one here. So my senior year in high school, I told my parents, it's something I always wanted to do was join the fire department. And my parents were like, all right, we'll go down there and grab an application. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
this is something you've always been passionate about. Let's do it. So I walk on down to the fire department, and I walk in, and there's a group of guys sitting around. And I'm like, hey, guys, can I have an application? And they all kind of just stop and look at me. And they didn't say too much, and one guy was, huffed and puffed and got up and gave me an application. So I said thank you, I got the application. I'm walking home, and I ripped the application up right in front of town hall and threw it out. I got home, and my dad's like, hey, Sam, how did it go? And I'm like, terrible. He's like, what do you mean terrible? I'm like, they don't want me. They didn't seem interested. And about a year later, Robert Corwin, my captain, knocked on my door, and he's like, hey, what's up? Are you joining the fire department? He's like, I heard you had some interest in joining. And I was like, absolutely. And I told him the same story. And he's like, we would love to have you. He's like, whatever you need from me, I'll, he went to bat for me. And it's been history since,
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a cool experience that he came and found me, and that was like, this is my sign to go ahead and join the fire department.
Mm-hmm. And what year was that you joined?
I would say it was right before COVID. So
Okay.
2019, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And how was that experience even getting involved? And did you have to go through a bunch of training? And
Yeah, so we went through the Suffolk Fire School. So that takes about 8 months. So it was right before COVID. So during COVID, it actually went to virtual. So we were only meeting up like once a week at the fire academy, doing our hands-on, and it was a weird time to be in, because I don't think we got the full hands-on effect as if anybody else who was to go through there,
Yes. And what's the most challenging part about your job as a firefighter?
I think the most challenging part is the time. Because, we all have our own lives and we're volunteering.
Mm-hmm. So
being able to say, all right, I'm going to take off from work so I can do this for the fire department, and you're not getting paid for it. I would say that's really tough doing that, because it's either you're all in or you're not in the fire department. There's no in between. It's like you're going to everything, you're making everything, or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And another challenge I would say is waking up at 3 a.m. by a pager, by a beeping noise, and waking up, rushing to a call, seeing some things that you don't want to see, and taking out all in, and then being at work at 8 o'clock and act like nothing happened. You know what I mean? That's always tough. You're seeing traumatic things, and you just got to figure out how to cope with it. So that can be a challenge.
Yes. And then you were nominated for Fire Person of the Year and EMS Person of the Year. How did that feel, and just that that recognition?
I was definitely on cloud 9 when I got nominated for the two. That's not why we do this. We don't do what we do for the award, but it is a great feeling being recognized for what you're doing for the community. So it was tremendous.
Yes. And obviously, with I think a lot of volunteer fire departments, it can be a challenge recruiting. How has that been, even since you've joined, and in terms of working with recruiting other people and just not wanting it to become more of a paid position or where it would be outsourced?
I would say recruitment is very it's tough. It's tough. I would say back in the 80s and 90s, there was a waiting list to join the Greenport Fire Department. You had to know someone and be a family member of someone to even be thought about. Now, it's tough, and I think why it's tough is because it's so expensive to live out here. So you have a lot of people that own houses out here that summer out here, and you're not getting the full-time people that are committed to this community. So I would say 90% of the fire department are all people that grew up out here and they have ties to Greenport. They're not people that it's just summer out here. You know what I mean? The full-time people that live out here all the time. Yes. So recruitment has been very tough and trying to find young men and women. I would say there's one other person that's younger than me. I'm 26, and we have Robert Corwin Jr., and he's 21, you know, when you can legally join the fire department at 18. So it's tough getting people out here and volunteering. Yes.
And then just separate from that, have you even seen a rise in calls every year? And obviously we have an aging population, and
I would say I definitely saw a rise in calls during COVID. Like I said, I joined during COVID, so I know the calls weren't what we were doing today. Like last year, we did 998 calls. We're on track for over 1,000 this year.
Wow.
You know, and I know Mattituck, Southold, they have a couple of paid guys that they're going with, like paid EMTs, and we don't have nothing. We're doing them. We have just the volunteers. We don't have a paid crew, which is cool to see. And we're doing the most calls. I know Cutchogue is looking to go paid before the end of the year. So
Cutchogue's going to go
paid EMS.
Oh, okay.
Yep. When I say paid, I mean like they usually have one or two guy or girl running the 80 car, which is just a paid EMT. Your paid EMT.
Okay. And now, separate from that, you decided last year to run for the Greenport School Board. Why did you decide to run?
Why did I decide to run for the school board? I felt like I wanted to make a difference in a different area in my community. And right off the bat, when I initially was going to run for school board, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I kind of came up with a plan like, hey, you know, what does the school need? And me being not too far removed from kids, I know how to motivate kids. I work at Mattituck Cutchogue School District as a security guard, and I know the ins and outs and how a building can be ran. So just seeing what Mattituck and Cutchogue does with security, I know Greenport was lacking that. You know, we have 12 security guards on our roster, and we have 6 on at once, you know, total in the 2 buildings. So I knew Greenport was lacking security because I think at the time we only had the 1 security guard from a company. And I knew that, you know, it's a large school. You need more than 1 security guard in the building. So I figured I'd throw my name in a hat and give it a whirl. And it's been great ever since. It's been great. It's a huge learning curve. And I love the challenges and navigating through different things. And I'm enjoying it.
And obviously you said you're still learning right now, but what are some ideas you would really hope to improve within the Greenport school?
Definitely. So within that, I would like to see the E&L students thrive just as much as I thrived. It's very hard coming to a new district and coming to a new school where, you know, there's a language barrier. And I would like to see us improve our E&L programs and all the different things we have here.
And I'm just thinking in terms of, well, we still didn't talk yet about DJing, but just balancing like your time in the fire department and within the Mattituck School District security and being on the school board and DJing. How do you balance all that?
It's very tough. I have this planner right here next to me, and it is tough, but you know, you got to do it while you're young. And you know, I tell everybody that, you know, do what you got to do now so you can do what you want to do later in the future. And I'm a true believer in that, and giving back to the community, and just balancing everything I got going on. It is a lot. I DJ, I do armed security, I do regular security. I used to detail cars. Being part of the fire and EMS and school board, it is a lot. It is a lot, and I'm grateful that I'm able to do it.
And now, when did you get interested in DJing?
So DJing was kind of my outlet. So back when I was in high school, it was like, that was my hobby. I was like, well, I want to mess around with music and see where it went. And word got out there, and I started doing little garage parties and backyard parties, and word got out even more, and I started DJing at the local restaurants and bars, and word got out there, and now I'm DJing weddings and bar mitzvahs, and it's great. Doing a lot of fundraisers for people. I'm all about giving back, and if I can DJ your function for a fundraiser people are doing, I'm all interested for that. I'm all in. I'm all about that.
And what type of music? Like, can you do a wide range of?
I would say I'm an open format DJ. I can pretty much navigate through every genre. Pretty versatile, I like to say.
Yes. But what about in terms of just personally for you? What type of music do you enjoy the most?
I would say the music I like to enjoy the most would be like 90s, 2000s hip hop and R&B, and probably a little bit of that reggae as well. It's probably my niche, I would like to say.
Nice. And in terms of even people or other classmates within your age, is it because for someone like you to get involved in the community, it's really important. Do you think just in general getting other young people to get involved in the community is
how do we bridge the gap there?
Yeah, and just like because it's obviously a challenge whether people are at school or they got to work or they have debt.
I really don't know the answer to that. I think why we have this problem is the cost of living out here. We have a lot of people my age that are either moving away or they fall into the system, or they just can't afford it, and they're working hard. They're working nonstop, and there's no time to volunteer. Volunteer takes a lot of time, and I was just fortunate enough because I still live home with mom and dad, and I'm just fortunate enough to have that. My parents bought their two houses at the right time, and they set me and my sister up, well, so.
Yeah. And it's hard because, I've had other people on and talk about how to address the issue, and it can be a challenge with how do you bring, whether it's workforce housing, affordable housing, and then also trying to preserve the open space as well.
Right. So when they had made the affordable housing reviewed apartments, I was one of the top guys on the lottery. So I'm like, this is perfect. I'm finally going to move out of mom and dad's house. And I go through the whole interview process, and they determined that I made too much money. But I'm just making ends meet. I'm just making ends meet. So I talked to the administration there, and I'm like, hey, well, is there any way you guys could raise my rent? Raise rent so I can live here? And they never got back to me on that. So that was very discouraging because a young guy like me that's looking to get a family started out here, and I give back to the community. I volunteered. I was volunteer firefighter at the time. I wasn't on the board at the time. And it's just, it was discouraging. Like, there's not many of me left. There's not many young guys, young women out there that are volunteering and doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that was always tough.
No, it's that almost, it doesn't help people that are in the middle area that are trying. It's always kind of these extremes.
Absolutely.
And then we're losing that middle class.
Right. Because I know a lot of people I graduate with, they all move down south, They're all...
like the Carolinas.
Absolutely. What we're paying for rent here, that's what their mortgage is, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. In terms of your time in school, did you have any teachers that you felt were important role models for
Oh,
you?
absolutely. I mean, they all were great role models, but Miss Colin, Lauren Colin, she's actually a former teacher there. She was amazing. She was great. Miss Goldsmith, Augusta, God rest her. She passed away not too long ago. Um, she was another one. I mean, I don't know what I would do without these couple teachers that helped me get through. Miss Douglas, another big one, and she was amazing. Miss Vigiano, another great teacher. But Mr. Martellata, he was great. You know, I loved his science class. There's so many great teachers in Greenport. That's what makes Greenport a special place. You know, it was a big family unit there. You know, big dysfunctional family, I like to call it. You know, you had your ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you know, you hug it out, you cry it out, and you know, back to work, back to school we went. You know, so it was great. I loved Greenport. I still do. Greenport's such an amazing place. That's why I wanted to join the board of ed there. You know, be part of something bigger.
In terms of also, I think this is another thing with housing and the population, and we've seen, I don't know if you've seen at Mattituck, but just decrease in the population. There's always been talk about consolidating schools in the past, and people still wanting to keep their separate school districts, but then whether there's like sports where they have to play basketball together or something. But
what I do see happening is that there's going to be, what I think personally is that we're going to have one athletic director here on the East End, and he's going to be in charge of all those sports. Is what I think personally, because a lot of the teams are combining and we are consolidating into, you know, what do you have? You have football, which is Mattituck, Southwold, Greenport. You have girls lacrosse. You know, that's all three schools. So it is getting, you know, these sports are getting small out here because, you know, enrollment is dropping.
Yeah.
So I can see one AD being in charge of all three districts eventually.
Yeah. Now, even from growing up out here to continuing to work on the North Fork, what do you enjoy about living and working out here?
I enjoy some of the groups that I'm part of, which are the fire department. It's a great brotherhood, sisterhood. I enjoy being part of the board. You know, it's great seeing different minds, you know, coming up with a solution to problems we're having. You know, I love that I live 500 feet from the water. You know, I love fishing. If I could fish and be on the water every day, I would be. You know. As I like to say, we live where people vacation. I live where you vacation. So it's great.
We didn't really talk about your job in Mattituck.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Maybe we'll talk about that and just kind of your day-to-day.
My day-to-day operations. So my day-to-day operations from Mattituck School District is, depending on the day. So like Monday, Tuesdays, I get in at 7. I work 7 to 3:30. And Wednesdays, Friday, I work 11 to 7:30. And I alternate from building to building. A couple days I'm at Mattituck and a couple days I'm at Cutchogue. And my day-to-day is you kind of, you know, you dismiss the buses and you get all the kids in and you do your patrols around the school and, you know, you make sure everything's in place and doors are locked and people are happy, you know, and same thing when you let them go. You let them go, you make sure the doors are locked, you make sure sports and everything are you know, going, and we keep in crowd control to whatever we have to do. So, when did I start at Mattituck? I started Mattituck in 2017, which is the year I graduated Greenport School, but 2017 I started as a custodian. And they were just looking to hire more security guards. So I applied and I got hired. But before that, I was actually, I actually worked for the Barclay Center. And I was doing security at the Barclay Center, doing concerts and stuff like that. And I got more involved and I turned 21 and I went and got my armed security license. So with that, I was doing a lot of bodyguard work. So, you know, I worked for big time celebrities. You know, I was patting Drake down and Kendrick Lamar and
Oh, wow.
Allen Iverson and Kevin Garnett at these big venues. And, my mom's taking pictures of the TV and she's like, hey, I see you on the red carpet, and that was really cool, but it was very sporadic. I could have a month full of stuff I got to do and then you don't have work for 6 months. It was very sporadic, but it was very cool and it was a great experience. Was that
that wasn't something you wanted in terms of a long-term?
No, definitely something I can't see myself doing every day.
Was it stressful or
very stressful?
Even though you're probably meeting all these people that you're like, wow, but it's I gotta
absolutely
pay attention.
Absolutely. So you're meeting these huge celebrities, and for example, when I worked the NBA award show one year, and I'm patting down these celebrities' bodyguards. So these guys are jacked, bigger than me, and I'm like, what am I doing patting these guys down? And I was freshly 21, what do I know about anything? And it was a great experience. Like I said, I met Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, just a bunch of different celebrities, and it was a great experience. Then I ended up working for the Grammys, and I met a bunch of stars: Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Cardi B, you name it. I was patting these celebrities down before they came into the venue, and it was amazing. It was amazing. So that was a good experience.
I never think that I don't know, it might sound silly, but I never think you'd have to pat down the actual celebrity.
Yeah, absolutely. So before they come on the red carpet, you're patting them and their bodyguards down. And there's celebrities that refuse, and you say, hey, very nicely, hey, we can't pat you guys down, you got to leave. They usually go back to the limousine and drop off whatever they got to drop off and come back in, and there's no problems, So who knows what they're carrying or what they have on them? Who cares, as long as they're safe in that venue. But it was really cool because my mom was taking pictures of the TV, and that's just something you'll never experience. Like her texting you, like, "Oh my God, I see you on TV." Turn around, and my phone and my watch is buzzing. You can't turn around and look at the camera, but she's watching me at the Grammys right on TV, which was cool.
Yeah, and within the school district, I'm trying to remember as a kid when I went to school, it could be a positive and negative, but I don't think we had as many security guards, right? But I think over time with other things that have happened, we've had to be more cautious.
Absolutely.
With that.
I know growing in Greenport, we had Mr. Musto. Great guy, another fireman. He was a retired detective sergeant or something from the city. Nicest guy in the world, but he was our security guard in Greenport. And, I just remember just seeing him and him being the face of the building. Now security is just so elaborate. Now you got your security cameras. You got special doors where you can buzz people in and out. We have this system called the Raptor system. So anybody that comes into the building, you take their ID, you put their ID in a scanner. It pops up on the screen, lets you know if they're a sex offender, where they're from, who they are.
Wow.
You can hit print, or if they are a sex offender, the big thing pops up on the screen, and it's like, do these pictures match? And you just say yes or no, and it deters these people from getting into the building.
Yeah, like I said, we didn't have, we just had people could just walk
right in, exactly.
And I think after I had graduated, they added metal detectors and
right. Yeah, Mattituck doesn't have any of that now, and I know they're going to armed security. Riverhead has armed guards. I know Cimarriches has armed guards. Quag has armed guards. So eventually that's what it's coming down to. Unfortunately, I feel like if we protect these celebrities and these big time famous people with guns, we should be able to do the same with the kids. Kids are just as valuable as they are.
Yes. And then separate from that, do you also have to work with other children too within the environment? If there was a fight going on in the cafeteria.
We do deal with some children that have crisis issues, whether it's just behavioral or or whatever the case may be. Sometimes we have, children that just aren't having a good day, and I feel like as security guard, you're different than teachers because you see kids in a different element, and you can tell like, oh, I can tell Joey's not having a good day today. Let me talk to him, see how he's doing. And most of the time, kids are really they really respond well with that. And hey, Mr. Sam, that's what they call me, Mr. Sam. Hey, I'm not having a good day. My mom and dad got into a fight last night, and I can then say, okay, well, how about you come down to the wellness room here, and we can sit here and talk about it, or I can give you a counselor, or whatever the case may be, which is really nice. We have Mattituck just sent all their guards to a CPI training. So CPI stands for Crisis Prevention Intervention. So we can deal with kids and adults that are in a crisis situation.
Okay. And let's see, was there anything else you wanted to say about DJing or?
If you guys are a DJ, let me know. My DJ name is DJ Chili. I have no idea how I got the name DJ Chili.
Did someone say that to you, or did you think of that yourself?
So supposedly, back in the day, my dad's volleyball name, because he played a lot of beach volleyball when he was younger, they called him Chili. Chili SGS, his initials. I started DJing, and that just stuck. I don't know if it was from my family, my friends, but they called me Chili. Chili with a Y, not an I.
Yes. And have you expanded, because I know you do a lot within the area, whether like Lucharitos or Claudio's, but do you do just the North Fork or even?
No, I've been everywhere. I've been into the city a lot.
Okay.
I have a couple guys that work under me now. We all work together. They're great. So if I need a DJ, I know I can call another guy and send him to a gig. And I have great MCs, a couple of great MCs. I have a couple of dancers, and just networking. I met a lot of great people doing this.
Because I don't know too much about. I mean, I've been to places where they DJ, but what do you think's the most challenging part about that type of job? And is it working with different clients and like having to navigate what type of music they want, or just spontaneity within the environment and feeling out the crowds?
It all depends on the gig. So like a wedding, I pretty much have if you want to hire me for a wedding, we sit down, we talk about your needs, your wants, and what you don't want. There's some people it's like, hey, do not play cha-cha slide at my wedding, so stuff like that. But most of the time I am just reading off the crowd, reading the room. Nice. Which is really cool. It's like, you're constantly experimenting different things. Like, hey, let me see if this works. If it doesn't work, you switch to something else.
Yeah.
So just from the experience in doing that, I can read a room pretty well.
Now, you mentioned you enjoy fishing, but are there any other hobbies you have? Or it doesn't have to be hobbies, but activities.
Right. With all the volunteering, I don't have too much.
Not too much time.
I don't have too much time, but I always seem to make time for fishing. I used to paintball a lot. I used to be in a paintball league. What else? That's about it. I'm constantly just working and volunteering, and not a bad thing.
Yeah. And we probably we already discussed this a little bit, but what do you hope for the future of the North Fork and its community further down the line?
If I had it my way, I think the North Fork, the East End, needs a YMCA like Southampton. A big venue that has your basketball courts and your track and your gym and maybe a pool, swimming pool. Maybe that's, it might not be in Greenport, but maybe in like Mattituck, somewhere centrally located and easy for our kids to get there and other districts to get there, and have a bunch of jobs for kids, and kind of getting kids off the street a little bit, you know what I mean? Getting kids to, be part of something bigger, I think that would be great for out here. And
we also have, I mean, this is probably a hot topic, but the the basketball court in Greenport.
Oh, that's not going anywhere. That's the heart of Greenport right there. That was where I was.
There was nothing before that, and then Mitchell Park came about in the early 2000s, so there wasn't really a place for children and teens to hang out. But I think it's crucial to have these like
absolutely
public spaces.
The 3rd Street basketball court there was definitely my second home when I wasn't in school. You know, when I came home from school, it's homework, basketball court, dinner, basketball court. And my mom used to say to me, "Hey," I used to say, "Hey, Mom, when do I have to be back home?" And she'd say, "When you can't see your hand in front of your face." You know, so be home before that 6 o'clock whistle, and you know, it was such a great time.
Yes.
But yeah, that basketball court shouldn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's home to a lot of people, a lot of history there.
Yes. And in terms of just like looking at Greenport more specifically, what would you hope to continue to see in the area here? Obviously, we have a constant influx of residents, even moving from Brooklyn and coming out here, and then we still want to keep the local residents too, but that's obviously
we just I don't know what the solution is, but we have to gear things towards our younger generations. You know, we got to gear things towards them, and what's going to help us benefit keeping these kids and people around here that grew up here. You know, I really don't know what the answer is, but what can we do to keep these people here? You know? Yeah.
Well, I usually just ask at the end if there was anything else you like to discuss or say that we haven't talked about.
I think I pretty much hit everything. I think I hit everything. Oh, I forgot I had another job. So I just got hired for Southtown Police Department as their arrestee detainee.
Okay.
So anybody that gets arrested and they're staying overnight, they call me in to come help do the logs and stuff.
Okay.
So that's one of the new jobs I have in my free time.
So that's four jobs.
Yep.
Wow.
That's just on call, so you know it can be right now. It can be 2 weeks. You know, who knows? Yeah. So that's cool.
But you have your on call with the fire department.
Yep. Exactly. It's convenient that I live right across the street from the firehouse, so when we get a call, I walk across the street. You know.
Yeah.
I live right on 3rd Street, so it's real convenient.
And someone I think explained to me a bit, but how does that work when you hear the sirens? And there's some that are like longer and some that are shorter.
Yeah, so the long 3 blasts are a fire call. So it can be just a regular general smoke in a residence or someone pulled a pulse station. So that's the long 3 blasts. The 1 long blast is just an EMS call. And the siren's not supposed to go off at night after 6 o'clock for EMS alarms. Only for fire alarms. But our clock that sends the blast out is all whacked out. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So if you do hear a siren after that time, it's
usually something serious. So to speak.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I've heard there's sometimes where they have to do it again because maybe they didn't get someone to come in.
Correct. So there's a lot of times where during the day it's really tough to get EMTs because usually people are working during the day. So we'll usually bang out a signal 3, which means we're going to call people out again to try to get EMTs to show up. So you're calling for more help or more manpower.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is.
In terms of the number of calls and what you've come on in terms of the scene too, what was probably the most challenging situation that you've had to go into?
There's a bunch. It's always tough going to any call where you know people.
Because it's a small town.
Exactly.
Village, yeah.
Right. So you try to stay emotionless during the call, and you kind of rely on your training. You know, that's kind of how I operate. No matter what it is and who you see, you kind of just rely on your training, and you just let your training take over. You know, you see a fatal NVA, and there's people that I know that you might know, and you're an EMT as well, I might try to keep you away from this scene. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is not a good one for you. Let's go back to the firehouse, or whatever the case may be. You try to protect each other from things like that. So it's a cool brotherhood and sisterhood to be part of.
Yes, and just going into those situations, you probably have get somewhat of a adrenaline rush.
Oh, absolutely.
Just kind of like you just are in that mode of like I gotta.
Yeah, you get kind of tunnel vision, and you can't have that tunnel vision, and that's where people get hurt. You got to be able to take a deep breath and assess everything. You might see a huge fire over here, but you don't do your 360 perimeter check before you go into a building, and it could be a 100-gallon propane tank. You know what I mean? So you really have to be aware of your surroundings and what's what.
And then I had just one other question I just thought about. Now, you have working a lot and volunteering, but within the future, are there any possible ideas for even getting involved, running for the village board or any other?
It's funny you ask that. Yes, I am considering in a few years running for mayor.
Wonderful.
We'll see how it goes. Who knows what the future holds for me. But it is something I've been thinking about.
Nice.
So it's funny you ask.
No, so I wanna thank you so much for taking the time to come on today and share your story, and it's really wonderful to see a young person in the community get involved, and I wish you all the best with all your future endeavors. So it was really nice talking to you.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come sit in this podcast with you. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 107 with Sam Strickland Jr. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.